And now, Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.
The presence of skilled legal counsel can significantly influence the outcome of any legal matter, but it becomes essential in criminal cases. On this week's Legal Perspective, we are joined by Allie Menegakis, attorney with Clekis Law Firm. Allie, great to have you with us today. And when we're talking about, in our Sixth Amendment, we are guaranteed the right to an attorney. Can you kind of expand on that, how that comes into play with criminal cases?
Absolutely. So our Constitution, I love the Constitution, by the way, and to the point where I always have a bunch of just random constitutions to hand out to clients and to people, and I think it's so important for everyone to know what your rights are. And unfortunately, we really don't learn those when we're in school, in high school, or before then, or later. So when it comes to your right to counsel, especially for criminal cases, because your liberty is at stake for criminal cases, you could go to jail. Our forefathers, through our constitutional amendments, have actually afforded us the right to have an attorney, even if we can't afford one. But you have to invoke that right.
And so with a right to an attorney, is that only comes into play with criminal cases?
Well, if you can't afford one, then yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, our Constitution doesn't afford legal representation to people, for example, if they can't afford it, if they're getting a divorce, or in the case of getting a restraining order, you're not entitled to an attorney free of charge if you can't afford one for that. But if you are facing criminal charges and there's a risk that you could go to jail, then you do have an opportunity, if you can't afford it, to get a public defender. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today, because as a criminal defense attorney, at least in the private sector, I used to be a public defender, but in the private sector, I go to court regularly every week, and there's a lot of times where I'm the only lawyer in the courtroom, and I'm surrounded by pro se defendants or people that don't have an attorney. And it's so unfortunate because I see them not invoking their rights to these things and to their attorney, for example, and they really do not get the best results that they could if they had a lawyer.
Yeah. I actually read an article that said about 80% of U.S. criminal defendants cannot afford an attorney. Does that number sound right to you?
I'm not surprised by that. I could see it being even more, actually.
And can you put into perspective for us the impact it can have on someone's case if they have a lawyer versus not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of think of it, let's say like my car breaks down, right? I'm not gonna try, I have no experience when it comes to mechanics, I don't know if you do, but I'm not gonna try and fix my radiator if I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna go to a mechanic and have someone that's trained and skilled in it to fix it. When it comes to criminal cases, you're not just dealing with property or your car, you're dealing with your liberty. And as attorneys, trust me, we have spent a lot of time in our education, a lot of money in our education, and are continuously trying to keep up with the laws. It is impossible unless you are an attorney and have gone to law school and been educated on this to know all the different rights that you have and the ways to sometimes beat criminal charges. So just like, whether your car breaks down or you're sick and you go to a doctor, same thing is relevant for if you're charged with a crime. You should be seeking out someone to protect you and protect your liberty.
We were chatting earlier before we started, and we were saying that it's so unfortunate that you don't understand these, your rights and all that goes into criminal defense unless you're on either side of it, and sometimes it can be too late. So to get in touch with Clekis Law Firm, 843-9000000 is the number you can call. Allie, thank you so much for joining us, and you'll actually be back with us in a few weeks. We're going to talk about Miranda rights.
I can't wait. To it. Thank you.
We're back after this.
This has been Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.